"Mom, we need to talk." That's what my son said to me on a Tuesday afternoon in March. We were sitting at my kitchen table. The same table where I'd helped him with his algebra homework when he was 12. The same table where we'd had breakfast every Sunday morning for years. He had a cup of coffee in front of him. He wasn't drinking it. He was just staring at it. "Okay," I said. "What's going on?" He didn't look at me. "I just need some space, Mom." Space. I didn't know it then, but that word space would haunt me for the next 9 months. Because what Derek meant wasn't space. What he meant was silence. And not the kind of silence that happens when two people need time to cool down after a fight. Not the kind of silence that's temporary or respectful, or even painful but understandable. Whoa. This was the kind of silence that's deliberate, calculated, weaponized. For 9 months I called, texted. I apologized for things I didn't even do. I sent cards. I showed up at his door with groceries, with his favorite foods, with anything I thought might break through the wall he'd built. And he gave me nothing. Until I realized something that changed everything. His silence wasn't pain. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't him working through something. It was control. And the moment I stopped giving him that control, the moment I stopped begging for his attention, the moment I stopped making myself smaller and smaller trying to earn back his love, everything shifted. Before I tell you what happened next, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this, do me a favor. If you love real stories about family, about boundaries, about finding strength when someone tries to break you down, hit that subscribe button right now. And here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment and tell me. Have you ever dealt with someone who used silence to control you? What did you do? Because I'm telling you what I learned through this experience. It's something every person needs to hear. Alright, let me take you all the way back to the beginning. My son's name is Derek. He's 32 years old, college educated, works in finance, married to a woman named Vanessa who I thought, at first, was good for him. We were never the kind of family that screamed or threw plates or slammed doors. We talked things out. We were reasonable. We were close. Or at least, thought we were. Derek and I had always had a good relationship. When he was growing up, he'd tell me about his day at school. We'd watch movies together on Friday nights. When he went to college, he called me every Sunday. When he got his first job, I was the first person he told. When he proposed to Vanessa, he asked me to help him pick out the ring. So when he came to my house that Tuesday in March and said, "Mom, we need to talk," I thought maybe he was stressed about work. Or maybe he and Vanessa were having some kind of problem. I didn't think he was about to cut me out of his life. He sat down at the table. I poured him coffee, black 2 sugars, the way he's always liked it. I sat down across from him. "What's going on, honey?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at that coffee cup like it held all the answers to questions I didn't even know he was asking. Finally he said, "I need some space, Mom." And blinked. "Space? From what?" "From you." Felt like the air got sucked out of the room. "Derek," I said slowly, "did I do something? Did I say something that upset you?" He shook his head. But he still wouldn't look at me. "It's not one thing. Just everything. I need time to figure things out." My mind was racing. Everything. What did that mean? "Can you help me understand?" "Yes. Because I don't know what you're talking about." He stood up. "I don't want to get into it right now, Mom. I just need you to respect my boundaries." "Boundaries?" "Of course," I said. "I'll give you space. Just, how long are we talking? A week? A month?" He picked up his keys from the table. "I don't know. I'll reach out when I'm ready." And then he walked out. I sat there for a long time after he left. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, trying to figure out what I'd missed, what I'd done, what I'd said. But I couldn't find it. That was March 14th. By April, he still hadn't called. By May, he stopped responding to my texts. By June, I started wondering if I was losing my mind. And by July, I realized this wasn't about space anymore. This was something else entirely. At first, I tried to give him exactly what he asked for. I didn't call. I didn't text. Waited. 1 week passed. Then 2. By the 3rd week, I started to feel this anxiety. This knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. So I sent him a text. Hey honey, just checking in. Hope you're doing okay. Love you. I watched my phone for hours. Nothing. The next day I tried again. Thinking of you. Let me know if you need anything. Nothing. By the 4th week I was starting to panic. Called him. Rang. And rang. And rang. Voicemail. I left a message. Derek, it's Mom. I know you said you needed space, but it's been almost a month and I'm getting worried. Can you just let me know you're okay? That's all I need. Just a text. Just something. He never called back. By May, I couldn't take it anymore. I called Vanessa. She answered on the 3rd ring. Oh hey, she said. Usual. Like nothing in the world was wrong. Vanessa, hi. Is Derek okay? I haven't heard from him in over a month. There was a beat of silence on her end. Then she said, oh yeah, he's fine. He's just been really busy with work. Busy. For a month. Can you ask him to call me? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Sure. I'll let him know. Thanks, I said. And then she hung up. He never called. I started going over everything in my head. Had I been critical of Vanessa? Had I made some comment at their wedding that upset him? Had I been too involved? Not involved enough. I replayed every conversation we'd had in the last year. Every text. Every phone call. Every family dinner. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the moment where I'd done something so terrible that it justified this. So I did what I thought a good mother should do. I apologized. I sent him a long text. I told him I was sorry if I'd hurt him. I told him I loved him. I told him I just wanted to understand what I'd done so I could fix it. He read it. I saw the little read notification pop up at 9:47 p.m. He never replied. Do you know what that feels like? To pour your heart out to your child. And have them read it. And just ignore you. It's not like being slapped. Slap, you feel it and it's over. This was different. This was like being erased. Like I didn't matter enough to even warrant a response. By June I was falling apart. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I spent hours every day staring at my phone, waiting for a text that never came. I talked to my sister Karen. Maybe he's just going through something, she said. Give him time. It's been 3 months, I told her. She didn't have an answer for that. I talked to my friend Linda. Have you tried just showing up? She asked. So I did. One Saturday morning in late June, I drove to Derek's house. It's about 20 minutes from mine. Nice neighborhood. Good schools. The kind of place you raise a family. I brought muffins from the bakery on Main Street. The chocolate chip ones. Derek used to love those when he was a kid. He'd eat 3 of them in one sitting. I pulled into his driveway. Vanessa's car was there. So was his. I walked up to the front door and knocked. Vanessa answered. She looked surprised. And uncomfortable. Oh, hey. Hi Vanessa, I said, holding up the bag. I just wanted to drop these off for Derek. Is he home? She glanced over her shoulder, back into the house. Yeah, but he's in the shower. Waited. She didn't move. Can I just come in and wait? Yes. She looked back again. Actually, this isn't really a good time. I felt something shift in my chest. Vanessa, I said. I haven't seen my son in 3 months. Can you please just tell him I'm here? She bit her lip. I'll "I'll give these to him," she said, taking the bag from my hands. And then she closed the door. I stood there for a minute, on my son's porch, holding back tears. I thought about knocking again. I thought about calling his name. I thought about sitting on the porch and refusing to leave until he came out and talked to me. But I didn't, because somewhere deep down I knew, if I did that, if I made a scene, if I forced my way in, I'd be proving something to him. I just didn't know what yet. So I walked back to my car, and I drove home, and I cried the whole way. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way Vanessa looked at me, the way she blocked the door, the way she took the muffins like I was a delivery person and not Derek's mother. And I kept thinking about Derek, in the shower. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was standing right there, just out of sight, listening to me beg to see him. That thought made me feel sick. The next morning I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened my laptop, and I looked at Derek's social media. He wasn't silent with everyone. He was posting pictures with Vanessa at a restaurant, pictures at a baseball game with friends, pictures from a weekend trip to the mountains. He was living his life. He just wasn't living it with me in it. And that's when something clicked. This wasn't grief. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't Derek working through some deep emotional issue. This was a choice. He was choosing to shut me out. And he was doing it deliberately. I started thinking about the conversation we'd had in March. I need space, Mom. It's not one thing. It's everything. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Those weren't the words of someone who was hurt. Those were the words of someone who was in control. And that's when I started reading articles about emotional manipulation, about people who use withdrawal as a form of punishment, about silent treatment as emotional abuse. And I saw it, clear as day. Derek was using silence like a weapon. And I'd been so busy trying to figure out what I'd done wrong that I never stopped to ask. What if I didn't do anything? What if this wasn't about me at all? What if this was about him needing to feel powerful? What if somewhere along the way, he'd learned that if he ignored me, I would chase him? I would apologize. I would shrink myself. I would beg for his attention. And that gave him control. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd been playing a game I didn't even know I was in. And I was losing. I didn't make a big announcement. I didn't send Derek a final text telling him off. I didn't call Vanessa and demand answers. I didn't block his number or delete his contact. Just stop. I stopped texting. I stopped calling. I stopped apologizing. I stopped showing up. I stopped carrying the weight of his silence. Felt strange at first. Like I was doing something wrong. Like I was abandoning him. But then I realized something important. You can't abandon someone who's already left you. The first week was hard. Pick up my phone a dozen times a day. My fingers would hover over his name. But I didn't press it. The second week was a little easier. I started noticing things I hadn't noticed in months. The way the light came through my kitchen window in the morning. The way my garden was blooming. The way I could breathe without that constant knot of anxiety in my chest. By the third week I started doing things I'd put off. I went to a pottery class at the community center. I had lunch with Linda. I went to the farmer's market on Saturday morning and bought fresh flowers from my table. Small things. But they mattered. Because for the first time in months I wasn't waiting. I wasn't holding my breath. I wasn't making myself smaller, quieter, less. I was just living. And you know what? Felt good. Not in a vengeful way. Not in a I'll show him way. But in a quiet, solid way. Like I was remembering who I was before all of this. Before the silence. Before the begging. Before I turned myself inside out trying to earn back the love of someone who was withholding it on purpose. 2 months passed. Then 3. I didn't hear from Derek. And for the first time since March, I didn't care. Not in a bitter way. Just in a neutral way. Like he was a chapter I'd closed. Kept living my life. I took a weekend trip with my sister to the coast. We stayed in a little bed and breakfast, walked on the beach, ate seafood, talked about everything and nothing. It was the first time in months I'd felt light. When I got back, there was a text from Derek. I saw it on my phone when I got home Sunday night. "Hey Mom. How are you?" I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond immediately. Part of me wanted to pour out everything I'd been holding in for the last 5 months. But I didn't. Put my phone down. And packed my bag. I made myself a cup of tea. I sat on my porch and watched the sun go down. And 2 days later I replied, "I'm fine. Thanks for asking." That's it. 4 words. He texted back an hour later. "That's good. Just wanted to check in." I didn't respond. A week went by. Then another text. "Can we talk?" I replied the next day. "About what?" He didn't answer that. But 3 days later he called. I was at my pottery class. I saw his name on the screen. I didn't answer. Not out of revenge. But because I was busy. And I wasn't going to drop everything for him anymore. He called again the next day. I was home. I saw the call. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. "Hey Mom. It's me. Just, wanted to talk. Give me a call when you get a chance." I listened to it. And then I deleted it. Because here's what I realized. For 5 months, I'd been available every second of every day, hoping he'd reach out. And he didn't. Now he wanted to talk. Now it was urgent. Well, he didn't get to decide when this conversation happened. Not anymore. A week later, Derek showed up at my house. It was a Saturday morning. I was in the garden, planting tomatoes. I heard footsteps on the gravel driveway and looked up. There he was, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. "Mom. Derek." He stood there for a moment like he was waiting for me to drop everything and rush over to him. I didn't. Kept planting. "Can we talk?" he asked. "We're talking now," I said, not looking up. He shifted his weight. "I mean, really talk." Inside. I stood up, brushed the dirt off my hands, looked at him. "Okay," I said. "Talk." He looked around, uncomfortable. "Maybe we should go inside." "I'm fine out here," I said. He sighed. "Mom, I feel like you've been distant lately." I almost laughed. "Almost. I've been distant," I said, keeping my voice even. He nodded. "Yeah. I've been trying to reach out and you don't respond. You didn't answer my calls." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said very calmly, "Derek, you didn't speak to me for 5 months. You ignored my texts, my calls. You shut me out completely. You refused to see me when I came to your house. And now you're upset because I didn't answer your phone call in 5 minutes." He looked down. "I was going through something." "I know," I said. "But you never told me what. You just disappeared." "I told you I needed space." "Space is one thing," I said. "Silence is another." He didn't respond. "Derek," I said. "Do you have any idea what the last 5 months have been like for me?" He looked uncomfortable. "I know it was hard." "Hard?" I interrupted. "Hard doesn't even begin to cover it. I spent weeks thinking I was a terrible mother. I went over every conversation we'd ever had, trying to figure out what I did wrong. I apologized for things I didn't even do. I begged you to talk to me. I showed up at your house with food, with gifts, with anything I thought might get you to acknowledge me. And you gave me nothing." He shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Mom." "Maybe not," I said. "But you did. And here's the thing, Derek. I spent months blaming myself. Months thinking I must have done something terrible to deserve this. But then I realized I didn't do anything wrong." He looked up at me. Mom, let me finish, I said quietly. You used silence as a weapon. Whether you meant to or not, that's what you did. You shut me out, and every time I tried to reach you, you ignored me. And that gave you power over me. It made me small. Made me desperate. It made me question everything about myself. But I'm not doing that anymore. Derek stared at me. So what, you're just done with me? I shook my head. No, I'm not done with you. But I'm done chasing you. I'm done apologizing for things I didn't do. I'm done making myself smaller to try to earn your attention. If you want a relationship with me, then we can have one. But it has to be mutual. Has to be respectful. And it can't be based on you punishing me with silence every time you're upset about something you won't even explain. He looked down again. For a long time he didn't say anything. Then quietly, I don't know if I can do that. Then I guess we don't have anything else to talk about, I said. He stood there for another minute. I could see him wrestling with something. But I didn't fill the silence. I didn't beg him to stay. I didn't apologize or backtrack or try to make it easier for him. Finally he nodded. Okay, he said. And then he walked away. Derek left that day. We didn't hug. We didn't make up. We just existed in the same space for a moment. And then he was gone. I went back to my garden. I finished planting the tomatoes. And you know what? Felt okay. Not happy. Not sad. Just okay. It's been 3 months since that conversation. Derek texts me occasionally. Short messages. Hope you're doing well. Happy Thanksgiving. I respond. Politely. Briefly. But I don't chase him. I don't ask him when we're going to talk. I don't beg for more. 'Cause I learned something through all of this. Something I wish I'd known sooner. You can love someone and still protect yourself from them. You can be someone's mother and still refuse to let them use you as an emotional punching bag. You can want a relationship and still have boundaries. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is to stop accepting unacceptable behavior. People think silence is passive. They think it's just the absence of something. But it's not. Silence can be a weapon. Can be used to control, to punish, to manipulate. But silence can also be a shield. For months, I let Derek's silence destroy me. I let it make me small, desperate, afraid. But when I stopped chasing him, when I stopped apologizing for things I didn't do, when I stopped letting his silence control me, I found my own silence. And in that silence, I didn't find loneliness. Found clarity. Found strength. Found peace. Because at the end of the day, you can't force someone to love you the way you deserve to be loved. But you can decide to love yourself enough to walk away from people who won't. Even if that person is your own child. If this story moved you, if it made you think about your own relationships, your own boundaries, your own silence, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about family, resilience, and finding strength in the hardest moments. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been on the receiving end of the silent treatment? Have you ever had to choose between chasing someone and protecting yourself? What did you do? I read every single comment. And I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for listening to mine. I'll see you in the next one.